Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be unboxing some viewer mail. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and since the last one, there have been quite a few parcels sent to the P.O. box, so I figured it was time to do another unboxing. Anyways, we've got this first box, which comes from a guy named Robert in New Jersey, and yeah, we're going to be seeing what's inside. I can't seem to find any letter, so maybe one wasn't sent here, but in any case, it looks like we've got some vintage equipment, probably from about the 1950s or so. This is a piece by Hobbytown, and it appears to be a 282 locomotive, possibly of some sort. We've got a Mantua Conrail locomotive, some sort of a tender. This is probably for that steam locomotive. Another tender. Whoa, I think this might be some kind of camelback. Obviously in need of some repair, but really unique. This might even be made out of, well, it is made out of brass, you can see right there. Got a another tender from Mantua. And then finally, I really don't know what this is all about. I've never seen this box before. We'll have a quick look here. I think that this is some sort of a static HO scale locomotive, so I don't think this thing runs or anything like that, but it looks super interesting, I'll say that. So you might think that's it, but there's actually another box addressed from the same person. Maybe that will tell more of this story. I'm very intrigued. So here's part 2. We'll see if this maybe has some answers for us. I wonder what all of this is. Well, given the fact everything is facing up, I'm gonna guess that there is no letter in either of these boxes, but this guy Robert appears to have sent a whole bunch of stuff on top of, you know, this first box, which is amazing, and it looks like there are some amazing things in here, so let's have a look through all of it. So starting off, we've got a locomotive from Concord from the Pennsylvania Railroad, and according to the box, it's an SD-24. We've got some sort of a tank car. I think that it's full of coolant for air conditioning units. Got a unmarked locomotive of some sort. I think it might be another SD-24. I believe this is a 40-ton switcher. Don't quote me on that, but it's all made out of, it's all die-cast. Looks to me like it might be by Hobbytown. Certainly in some need of restoration, but a really nice little locomotive. Got a Mantua Union Pacific tender. Oh, wow, this looks vintage. I think this might be a piece by Fleshman. As a matter of fact, it is. This one appears to have been converted into a dummy unit, however. Oh, cool, it's a PCC streetcar from Bachman. And this one is actually from Toronto, so it's a Canadian unit. What I believe is some sort of boxcar here. Carrying dry ice. This all looks very familiar to me. I think my grandfather might have had this exact book at one point. Got some sort of a thumb drive. An SD7 locomotive from Proto 2000 in the Great Northern paint scheme, and I don't know, this almost looks new in the box. What a gorgeous locomotive. And then finally, there appears to be something possibly from Athearn Genesis. So we'll have a quick look there. I don't believe it, it's a Mikado. I actually have this exact locomotive, but it doesn't run. I got it back when I was a kid in around 2009. It was, I went on a trip to Merrickville with my grandmother, and after a day of looking through different locomotives, I picked this exact one. Now, this unit appears to be in need of repairs as well, but I kind of can't believe I'm looking at a second one. This brings back so many memories. So I think that's about it for these two boxes. I'm in disbelief. I mean, there are so many wonderful locomotives in here, which I really cannot wait to test out. And Robert, if you're watching this, thank you so much for sending all this stuff. I wish there was more information to thank you, but yeah, whatever the case is, it's super generous. So thank you so much. We're going to test everything out here, that's for sure. But there are more boxes to open up first, so we'll get to those. This next larger box comes from a guy named Kenneth from British Columbia. Gotta like readjust the camera for this one. Lionel Showroom Layouts. Okay, here we go. Hello, Harrison. I noted your admiration of the A4 Pacific during the visit to the National Railway Museum. You'll find 2 examples enclosed. One late BR without valances and one pre-war L and ER with valances intact. Additionally, there are sufficient passenger coaches for a presentable train and also a tank in case of trouble. I did not find a Flying Scotsman I could send for your grandmother, so City of London is included instead. A jar of BC Buddy has been supplied for Nerf Cat, so enjoy. Godspeed, SMT. Wonderful. Well, let's get into this. So first of all, we've got some sort of a movie called The Train. I feel like I might have seen some clips of this in YouTube videos. I think there's a famous crash scene. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'll have to watch that at some point. Let's go give some of this to Nerf Cat. Alright, so we're going in for a live reaction with Nerf Cat here. Well, I would say he approves of that. On to the rest of the unboxing here. Oh, this wasn't a tank car, this was a tank on a car. I see. And this is a piece from Bachmann branch line. That looks really sharp. Check out the detail on this. They've actually got tables inside the cars with little lamps. It's beautiful. I can't get over this. I mean, just look at these cars. The new Century Bar. Well, there's a car you're certainly not going to want to leave the station without. And here is Dominion of Canada. Of all the things that could have been sent, I definitely would not have guessed this. And yeah, here's an exact model of the A4, which I saw at the Transportation Museum. What a gorgeous locomotive. I've got to say, in person, this thing was super impressive. They actually have a setup so you can go inside the cab in the tender. And I believe this locomotive was actually shipped back to England in 2013 to be restored. And it's now back home here in Canada. What an amazing model. City of London from Bachmann branch line. The detail on that looks absolutely superb. So Kenneth, I'm sort of speechless right now. Thank you so much for all of the British steam locomotives and cars, as well as the catnip. I'm certainly going to want to test all this stuff out, but we've got a couple more boxes I want to open up, and then we'll get around to testing all these various locomotives which have been sent in. So I don't actually know where this next box comes from. It had a name on it and stuff, but I ripped that off for security purposes. We'll just open it up and kind of find out, I guess. Oh, wonderful, even more boxes. So I believe we're supposed to open this one first. Seem to have an N-scale tender from Bachmann. I didn't know you could buy an individual tender like that. Another thermized liquid car. Got some various parts. Got a tender, motor and flywheel assembly. An Erie Lackawanna locomotive from AHM. Some sort of a little toolkit. Chicago Northwestern BL2. And some various brass parts. Look at this, it's a brass Baltimore and Ohio tender. Got a Pennsylvania Railroad tender. I think right here there's some kind of a locomotive. Chesapeake in Ohio. This appears to be a 210-0. And I think it's from Mantua. Like I said, I don't know who sent this box in. Thank you a bunch for all the tools and project locomotives. Really is a fantastic lot of stuff. Now we appear to have another box from Kenneth. This one has a letter. Hello, Harrison. I trust that all remains well with you and your family. You've stated that your favorite British diesel locomotive is the Deltic, and you'll find one enclosed. Additionally, there is an Airsmooth build Pacific Stainer City class FP7A 469 now at the Squamish Museum. I didn't go to this museum, but I was actually in Squamish, BC a couple years ago, and I saw pictures of it, so I know the locomotive you're referring to. The Golden Arrow is included as well as some additional odds and ends. I have checked the 3 individual locomotives and they all run. The commemorative set has not been tested, but should be okay. Larger Bachmann Branchline and Hornby 00 models can, with rare exceptions, run on 18 radius without any difficulty, so you should be fine. Sincerely, Kenneth Elliott. P.S. Best wishes for Nerf Cat and the Oldsmobile. Well, thank you so much, Kenneth. What a nice letter. Now let's have a look through this box. I got some sort of a book about Hornby, the official illustrated history, and I'm not as knowledgeable on Hornby, mostly just because it is a brand from across the pond, but I would be more than happy to learn more about it, so this could be useful. As far as the rest of everything goes, wow. I don't own a crazy amount of Rapido locomotives, but I will say as far as detail goes, I've never been disappointed by one, and this is certainly no exception. I mean, this just looks so impressive. I certainly can't wait to get this out of the box, but there are some other things in here which I want to bullet as well. But yeah, just right off the bat, what a generous thing to send somebody. I kind of can't believe it, really. So we've got a 462 locomotive. I've seen pictures of this type of locomotive before. I don't really have anything quite like it though, so that's certainly a unique piece. City of Coventry. Look at that. Apparently this is a sand-equipped locomotive. Here's the old Deltic. I've always been fascinated by these locomotives. I think that the type of engine they were using in these was really unique for the time. It was certainly a very unique concept. The Golden Arrow Last Steam Run. Well, I know less about this, but I really cannot wait to run this thing on the layout for the first time. There are so many fantastic engines in these lots. With this box combined with the other ones, Kenneth has successfully doubled the amount of British rolling stock in the collection. Moving on to the next box, comes in from a guy named Gary from Tennessee. Greetings from Chattanooga, Tennessee, USA. I bought this on eBay thinking it was okay. It didn't run. Motor runs, but the weight is all cracked. Good luck. All right. Well, this should be interesting. I guess there is a locomotive in here, and it looks to have been partially disassembled. Got a Rivarossi pamphlet for cab forward, yeah, as well as an exploded parts diagram. This actually would have been quite helpful about a year ago when I bought one of these engines. I have a rough idea on how to disassemble them. Anyways, it seems that he's actually gone and sent an entire cab forward locomotive, which unfortunately has zinc pest. This is not the result of being dropped. This is something that unfortunately a lot of these older Rivarossi engines suffer from. Might be able to craft up some sort of a chassis to replace this, but unfortunately once zinc pest starts, there is no real way to fix it. We got all the parts here. So that might just make for an interesting project. So thank you so much for sending that along, Gary. I'll try my best to turn this engine around. Next up, we got a box from Washington, and this comes from a gentleman named Kurt. Greetings, SMT. I really enjoy watching your channel. I sent stuff for you to mess with. First are some passenger cars with interiors I 3D printed, and constant lighting boards I built. I have a video that shows how to install them, and I guess that's the QR code for that. I posted the files to print them on Thingsverse. The second is an RS11. I love the early Alco trains, and the RS11 is one of my favorites. However, I never really got this one working well. I bet with your skills you could get it running better. Well, we'll see. Third is a 3D printed house I designed. I didn't love how the paint job turned out. I sent the second one right off the printer for you to try your hand. The wires coming out the bottom are for lights in the house. Hook the red wire up to 12 volts DC. The black wires are ground for various lights. Have fun, Kurt. All right, well, let's have a look. It's amazing how far 3D printing's come along, you know? Every year I find you just keep seeing cleaner and cleaner prints, and this is, you know, not too far away from some of the molds they used to be producing in the 60s in terms of quality, so yeah, that's impressive. And see all the wiring there, so I'll have to figure out how to hook that up. I like it. Got a garage and everything. Very cool. Here are all the parts for that. Here are the interiors. They look pretty good in my opinion, and got some lighting boards. I don't know which passenger cars these would go best in, but the option's there now. Got some metal wheels as well. And then here's the RS11 locomotive. It appears to be an old AHM. I can already tell right off the bat it looks like the wipers might be a bit messed up, which is a common problem with these. So yeah, we'll have to see how that runs later on. But either way, thank you so much for sending all this stuff along, Kurt. These are some interesting projects you've thrown my way. Next off, we've got a box. I don't know who this one came from either. Hi SMT, my name is Sean and I've been watching your videos for a while, so I thought I'd send you something. Inside is a Erie Lackawanna locomotive that I think is a switcher. I got it a while ago but don't even have an HO layout, and to be completely honest, I don't know if it runs or not, so I decided to put a piece of track in the box in case you wanted to display it on something. Sincerely and best regards, Sean. Oh, thank you so much for the letter, Sean. Let's have a look at what kind of locomotive this is here. It is a switcher, probably from about the late 1960s or early 70s. Given that it's an Athearn, I bet it will probably run, but we'll have to take it over to the track and test it out in this video. And finally, we got a box from a guy named David from Wisconsin. Let's have a look at what's inside here. Harrison, I really enjoyed your Amtrak video. Here are some items to complete this set. I hope you do a video. Well, here it is. We'll definitely run these with the Amtrak set. Oh, great. It's a final car for that train. A lot of people were suggesting getting this exact car, so thank you so much for sending one along. And we've got an older Athearn Blue Box Amtrak F unit of some sort. I think it's an F7. And this one has the Super Drive, which basically just means they added weight to the existing Athearn drive. There's no difference in the drive system, but these will pull a little bit more. And a B unit. Very nice. Well, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. Now, I think at this point we've unboxed quite a bit of stuff. Why don't we take everything over to the track and we'll test it out. I think I'll start off with all the stuff which is currently out of the boxes, and then we'll unbox the things like the Hornby locomotives and take those out for a spin as well. So let's begin. I've got everything all set up here ready to be tested. I think we'll start out with the Amtrak locomotive because I believe it was supposed to be sent as a working model. I quickly just went and threw a coupler on that, and we actually have the whole Amtrak train ready to go here, including the new car. So let's give this a test. And yes, it does appear to work. Let's go try to pick up those cars now. What a great looking train. Next up, we've got the 40-ton switcher. I really don't know if this thing is going to run or not. It certainly looks a little rough around the edges, but I guess you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. So let's give it a chance here. I'm giving it power. I just saw a little bit of current draw for a moment there. Oh. Okay, so clearly we've got a working motor, which means the electrical system and everything else is in good shape, but there's some sort of a problem with the gearbox, and I don't know, given how loose these trucks look, I'm not entirely surprised, so I guess that will be a future project. And next up, we've actually got an Atlas locomotive. These have a very good reputation for being reliable, so I'm gonna guess this thing is probably gonna work. Yep, no problem. Yeah, thing's got tons of gusto. Yeah, it overall seems to be a pretty solid locomotive. Anyways, next we've got the RS3 in the Erie Lackawanna paint scheme. You can already see there's a problem with one of the wipers, so I'm not so sure if this one's going to fire up. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's not getting power right now. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to go. I don't know. I guess given the fact that it's only got one wiper trying to feed it power, it's not entirely surprising, but could be other problems. Who knows? This one should be really interesting. This looks like something which probably hasn't run for an awful long time. This is the kind of locomotive which has to have a tender, so I'm just going to quickly get a jumper so we can try to feed it some power here. I'm not entirely sure which side this is supposed to be picking up power from, so I guess we'll just try them both here. I kind of feel like this one is going to start. I don't know. These older steam locomotives are, you know, they're kind of tough. They appear to be shorted. That could be my doing, though. Let's try the other rail here. And now nothing's happening. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to pick up power, unfortunately. So that will be another project. Anyways, now we've got the BL2. I'm pretty confident that this one's going to start. I don't know. It's another AHM, which, as I said, are relatively reliable locomotives. I guess this one is not so. It doesn't seem to be picking up any power. Got the Athearn Blue Box switcher. I'm like 90% sure it's going to fire up here. Although I have been wrong about the last two. Oh! Thinking about it. This thing's been sitting for a while, I can tell. Oh yeah, it's starting to power through. It's almost pulling an entire amp, which is not great, but the old Athearns, they never fail ya. Yeah, it's starting to pull through. You can hear the motor revving up a little bit. That's why I love the old Athearns, you know, you can just throw them on the track even if they've been sitting for years, and with a little bit of prodding they usually will spring back to life. So anyways, that's it for the locomotives which are out of the box. We have a few here which are unboxed before, and a few which I think are new in the box, so we'll begin testing some of those out. I think we'll start off with this brass locomotive. I kind of think this one will probably start up. Put some voltage in the track and we'll get our jumpers going again here. Oh, you see that? So we found the correct rail, and it does look like it's trying to go. Let me crank up the volts of it here. Oh yeah, that runs just fine. Kind of extended our limit here, but yeah, that runs really well actually. It's super quiet. It's very impressive. You can't always let the cosmetic details deceive you on this stuff. I think we'll try out the Mikado next. Hopefully this one will work. It is missing a few parts here and there. The one that I currently have actually is still in somewhat working order, but the problem I was having was that there was a component inside the drive which had spun, so it at wide open throttle hardly moves. I'm really hoping this one doesn't have that same issue. Just having a closer look at this thing, can see that we got this plug here, but I don't see a socket, and I don't know if it actually needs that in order to run. I don't know if the tender's actually responsible for picking up power, but in these modern locomotives, quite often they fit the decoder inside the tender just because there's more room and it's easier to open up. So I think that might be the problem. It looks like somebody might have just pulled out the socket. I'm quite confident you need this to be hooked up to whatever's inside here for it to run, but we'll give it power anyways. Yeah, absolutely nothing. I'm not really too surprised after seeing that. So that's a project. We'll try out the Model Power Santa Fe locomotive. Now, this locomotive is branded as a Model Power, but Model Power had several different companies actually produce their locomotives, so you can see that this one is actually part of AHM, which is sort of interesting. Some of the other ones were actually made by Roco, and they had slightly better drives than this. This one, unfortunately, doesn't seem to want to start, and I think it might have a similar issue to the other with the wiper. So, yeah, you can see right there, it looks like it's a little bit messed up. So, it's kind of funny that all the AHM engines I've tried to test out haven't worked out. Generally, they're not that bad. Here's the Mantua. I'm really curious to see if this one's going to start. Oh, yeah. This one seems to work well. Check out how low the current draw is, and this is a locomotive which was probably made in the 90s, so for its age, the current draw is actually very good. This is a super efficient locomotive, so yeah, that's quite impressive. Next up, we've got a Concord locomotive. These are pretty good in my experience. And got a working headlight, not hearing anything from the motor so far. What this tells us about this locomotive is that the electrical system is working to some extent. You know, power is getting to the lights, so we know the wheels and everything are fine, but it's not getting to the motor, so either we've got a bad brush, or in all likelihood, maybe one of the leads going to the motor has a bad connection, a broken soldering joint, something like that. So it's probably going to need some repairs, but it shouldn't be too difficult to fix. And now we've got the PCC streetcar from Bachmann. I think this thing is supposed to be brand new. It certainly looks new, so I think that it's probably going to run right out of the box. Yep, runs like a charm. It's kind of a older concept. They don't do this on too many modern pieces of equipment, but I like that they've put the paper cutouts with the silhouettes on the inside. I just think that it's a nice detail, especially when the lights are on and you can see it. I think that it looks very nice. So I think that about completes all the testing for all the used stuff. Now let's go open up some of the new in the box stuff and test that out as well. So I think we'll start off with the Proto 2000 Great Northern SD7. I really like the boxes that Proto used to package up these locomotives. I think that it was a really good idea, you know, being created out of Lifelike, which didn't have such a great reputation at the time, to just display the entire drive. That way people could actually see what they were getting themselves into. And another thing I like about these is that they actually have history on the locomotive, and this was something I had never read before, that these apparently were referred to as the Cadillacs of locomotives by the engineers who used to drive them. Anyways, we'll get this one out of the box, we'll get the shell on it, and we'll test it out once we get all the other things unboxed here. Looks like it actually comes with some spare parts / additions, like the extra radiator. I can't seem to get the shell to click in. I'm not really sure what the deal is, so I think for now I'll just have to pick it up by the wheels. But yeah, overall a very nice looking locomotive. Here we've got the Rapido FP7, so let's have a look at that. Wow. This thing looks absolutely fantastic. The detail on these Rapido locomotives is really kind of second to none in my opinion. I would even consider, you know, Proto engines pretty well detailed, but these really hit it out of the park. Got the metal Katy couplers on here. This locomotive appears to have some sort of a light on the top. I've never seen that before, and I'd be curious to learn as to what exactly the purpose for that would be. But yeah, either way, just a wonderful locomotive, and I really cannot wait to run this. I think it's going to look absolutely fantastic on the layout. Next, I think we'll open up this tank car. I noticed earlier these are 1/76 scale, which is interesting. So I guess these are 00, which is slightly larger than HO scale. It's sort of a funny thing. I thought by now that HO was just kind of standardized, but it's really not off by all that much. Look how great that is. I love it. Now I think we'll begin opening up some of these passenger cars here. Fantastic. You can see some contacts too. I don't know if there's any sort of lighting in these cars, but I'm going to be really curious to see if there is when we take these over to the track later on. These are just fantastic. I love the detail they used to put on these cars too. I mean, like, look at this beautiful window right here. You can actually see the entire bar scene inside here as well. Next up, we've got the A4. I'm really looking forward to having a closer look at this locomotive, so let's not waste any time doing so. Very nice. Just look at that. What a beauty. The detail in the cab is very good too. You can see all the pipes are colored in there. I mean, it looks a little different than the real thing when I saw it, but it's still a absolutely gorgeous model. Here's the tender as well, and there's actually a passageway. This has been barricaded, but this door is open. They have like LED lights running down the side, and I think somewhere around here there was a way to exit. Next, we've got the City of Coventry, and this is a sound-equipped locomotive. I don't know what kind of sound system they put in these sorts of locomotives. This is all sort of new to me, because I have some Hornby locomotives, or Hornby trying, but a lot of that stuff is, you know, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe into the 90s, so all this modern stuff is kind of a new world, but I'm really curious to test it out. Well, there it is. It's a little bit larger than I was expecting. Just a beauty. Not a bad looking tender either. Next up, we've got the Dominion of Canada, another gorgeous steam locomotive, which they actually did run in Canada for a little while, to my knowledge, and here's its 1/76 scale counterpart. You know it's nice when it actually comes with a certificate of authentication. And here is the wonderful Dominion of Canada. It's to be pretty well made. It's interesting. The rear truck has a blind flange. I haven't seen that for a trailing truck. It appears that this actually doesn't turn, so I guess it just kind of sits over the rail. Kind of unusual, but it is a very nice looking locomotive. Can't wait to test that one out as well. Here we've got the Battle of Britain class. This should be a interesting one to actually see outside of the box. Apparently it's DCC ready too, so I guess if I ever want to upgrade this, it shouldn't be too difficult. I really can't wait to show all of these locomotives to my grandmother, who was born and raised in England. I'm sure these would probably bring back a lot of memories for her. And here's the locomotive itself. This one's got a regular trailing truck. It's good to see. Very nice. And of course, here's the Deltic. This will be one which I'm really looking forward to seeing on the layout, just because I have some British diesels, but most of the ones I have are a little bit older and they're kind of clapped out, so seeing them, you know, a modern design of one is really nice. Just to give you an idea of scale, that's a Centennial right there, and it's only a couple inches shorter, so it's pretty impressive. Looks great. Apparently this is also a sound-equipped locomotive. Be curious to see how that performs, but yeah, this is really interesting. There's definitely nothing like that I've actually ever worked with before. Spring-loaded buffers. We got actual grills on the top too. That's always a good thing to see. There's a couple more things to unbox, but I think this will probably be one of the first we test out. Here we got the City of London Atlantic type steam locomotive. This should be a interesting one. It looks pretty good. It's the same type of locomotive I believe I actually worked on a few months ago. The only difference is that this one actually looks realistic, and the one I was working on was certainly not the best in terms of detail, but yeah, I think that they did a great job with it. Very crisp, got lots of different little details here. Again, colored cab. Absolutely fantastic. And finally, we've got the Golden Arrow Last Steam Run. Let's get this thing out of the box here. So these cars look exactly the same as some of the other ones here, so I guess Kenneth really went out of his way and sent the entire train, which is just ridiculously generous. I honestly can't believe somebody would, you know, send these sorts of things in, and yeah, I mean, it's just wonderful stuff right here. Looks like got a little bit of oil leakage in the box. No problem. Just take a little cloth, clean that up. But otherwise, yeah, looks like they did a very good job with this. Anyways, I'm really excited to run all this stuff, so we're gonna take this all over the track and test every single piece out here one by one. Okay, so the cars do have interior lights. That's really cool. Like, check out all the little lamps. I mean, I've seen some pretty detailed cars, but these really take the cake. I mean, like, that's so impressive that they actually managed to put a light in each one. I don't know if maybe there's, like, it's kind of fiber optic, but either way, this whole train just got, like, 10 times better with that one feature. So I certainly cannot wait to run these new cars, but I think I want to save this for last because we've got the entire train, so I'm just going to shift this over to a siding, and then we'll test out some of the locomotives which were sent in. So I got all the locomotives all ready to go here. I got the 2 North American diesels. I think we'll test those out first and then work our way on to the British stuff. We'll begin with the Proto 2000 Great Northern engine from Roberts, see how that goes. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. Well, I'm gonna cut the power because the motor seems to be locked in place, but it's really funny. It ran for like a foot as we saw, and then it just locked up again. So I'm not really sure what the situation is. I have had a bit of experience recently with these Proto 2000s kind of seizing up if they've been sitting for a little while. It could just be a little patch of grease in one of the gearboxes, which is just congealed, and that might be why it was able to move a little bit, but now is jamming up. So it should be easy to fix, but for the time being, that will be another project locomotive. Next up, we've got the Canadian Pacific F unit from Rapido. I've owned a couple of Rapido engines before, and I find that they're usually pretty smooth runners, so I suspect this one will probably be similar. Anyways, let's give it some power here. And yes, it looks very good. Nice bright headlight. Super quiet. Excellent performance. Now on to the Atlantic. Something that's kind of interesting about this locomotive is the drivers are actually outside of the frame. I think that that's the first HO scale engine I've ever seen like that. Anyway, if we give it some power here, it runs very well. Well, I'm thoroughly impressed by that. Now on to the Deltic, and this is a DCC sound locomotive, so we'll switch over to my DCC controller here. Well, there we go. Maybe it can't handle the curves. Huh, that's funny. The rear wheels are turning, but the front ones are jammed, so it seems like we've actually got a broken drive link or something here. That's kind of funny. I wonder what's going on there. Well, we'll have to open that one up at some point and see what's up. Next off is the wonderful Dominion of Canada. Yeah, look at that. Super impressive. Let's run the Mallard now. Very nice. And here we got the Sir Ustin's Missidin. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but either way, we'll set it up and take it for a spin. Yeah, not too bad. Here's the city of Coventry, and I believe this is a sound-equipped locomotive, so we'll quickly switch it over to DCC to test that out. That is awesome. Look at that. Spectacular. The only British sound-equipped locomotive in the entire collection now, and sure is quite a beaut too. And finally, we've got the apple door, and we're of course going to be pulling that entire train over there with it, so let's go collect those cars. Seems to run well. Kind of forgot that I recently isolated this section of track for some new wiring setup. Anyways, we'll just get the cars hooked up manually here, and they're all ready to go. What a fantastic train. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it, you know, between all the details inside the cars, the interior lighting with all of the lamps, the locomotive. It's all just so impressive. I think this has just got to be one of the coolest sets I've ever seen. Well, folks, I think that's going to about wrap it up for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I had a great time unboxing all the stuff you see right here, and there's a bunch of people out there I want to thank. Starting with Gary and the Rivarossi Cab Forward project. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm certainly going to give it a solid attempt, so thanks a lot for sending that all along. Next, I would like to thank Kurt, who sent all the houses and other 3D printed things, including the passenger car lighting system and the AHM locomotive. It was very generous. After that, I'd like to thank Sean, who sent in this really nice little switcher locomotive, which I was really happy to see come back to life. And then I'd like to thank Robert for all of the project locomotives, as well as this brand new Great Northern engine. They're all fantastic things. I also suspect that that lot of 5 different boxes might have been from him. I just find it funny that a lot of the contents was the same. So if that was also from you, Robert, thank you so much. It was very generous of you, and the extra tools and so on will certainly not go to waste. Next, I'd like to thank David for sending along this wonderful Amtrak locomotive, as well as a B unit and the final car to complete this consist. It's a really nice addition, and I can't wait in future live streams to be running the entire train now. It just looks even better than it did before, so thanks a bunch for that. And then finally, I just want to say a huge thanks to Kenneth for sending all of these wonderful new-in-the-box locomotives. I honestly just can't believe that somebody would send all this nice stuff. Like, it must have cost a fortune, and it's just like such a level of generosity that I honestly just don't even know how to express, you know, just how appreciative I am of it. I mean, it's just incredible, you know. I don't even really feel like I deserve to be, you know, sent all of these nice things from people, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. I really do appreciate it and everything, but yeah, it's just like ridiculously kind. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Anyways, I think I'll finish off the video here. I just want to thank you all so much for watching. And with that, we'll call it a wrap.